Hi, and welcome to the Future of Dermatology podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kamangar, board certified dermatologist. We are here to talk about anything and everything dermatology related. You'll hear from me and my guests who are dermatologists, physicians, experts, scientists, residents, and medical students in the field of dermatology. We publish weekly, so if you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button and show us some love, and thank you for joining us.
So I want to give you guys all a term to think about and just see what thought pops up into your head. So think about executive presence. So just take 10 seconds, going to think about that. Just a picture will pop into your head. That's how our language to thoughts works. And the large majority of people might think something like this. So if some version of this is in your head right now, the question becomes, what linguistic definition put that thought into our head?
Hello. We are back today for a really exciting episode. I have a very special guest, Sam Kamangar. Hi, Sam.
Hello. How are you?
Thanks for joining me. So Sam did a really cool thing. She organized a TEDx Sandhill Road Women event, which went fantastically. It was so great.
You say so.
It was really good. It was really good. I mean, I heard there was a really great talk on AI. Kidding. That was mine. But I was really happy to be a part of it. All the other speakers were amazing. And it was just such a cool event that we had to take time today and talk about it. And I think the importance is, of course, a lot of times we talk about dermatology on this podcast, but what was really cool is we had a lot of dermatologists there, of course. Whenever I'm involved, dermatologists show up. That's how we do it. But also, I just think as for physicians in general, we have to engage with people and getting our thoughts out. And I think it's kind of confusing right now how to do that with being like, social media. Do you dance on Instagram? Do you do this? Do you do that? There's so many avenues. And I thought like the TEDx format, it was my first TEDx, but I thought the TEDx format was such an amazing way. And that's their whole thing, right? Getting thoughts and ideas out in the world.
But educational, something that, creating new ideas and inspiring you with basically planting the seeds for new ideas in your brain. So
yeah. And I just thought it's so great for like, all physicians should, every professional should do that.
Every profession. And actually my goal is to involve more artists and musicians, maybe even later on in other events that we're about to host. So every aspect of a woman. That was my goal since birth, childhood, when we come to this world, and also when we go through life in different phases of life, we get married, we have kids, then our body, and then we become successful, education, all of that. I wanted to capture that. I personally think, you're my sister, you know that too. I think we were surrounded with very strong women in our lives. We had those role models in life. And so growing up, and now that I'm in higher ed, I see a lot of not young generation, the new generation, that they don't have that. They don't have those role models. They don't have anybody to talk to them about these different parts of what a woman goes through in life, and kind of seeing that, listening to those conversations around you, I think really makes a difference. I remember growing up, our aunts talking about their divorces, their husbands, their bank accounts, their finances, their cooking recipes, all of this, not necessarily that we're talking to us, but it was in the background and we would listen to it.
Yeah.
So I think having that gives you a very strong base growing up and going through life.
It's true. I think we grew up in a very storytelling culture.
Very.
Everyone's always telling stories, and maybe a little TMI, but like in a good way, right? It's true. You would be like 3 or 4, and there would be these really adult conversations going on around you. But it's also, I think, a very different way of raising kids. I find like here in the US, raising my kids, it's great. There's so many positives, but I find we sometimes shield them from some topics.
Absolutely.
Whereas I feel like the Persian culture doesn't do that. You could be 18 months, you're learning about.
And they take you everywhere with them.
Like you grew up with their parents. 2, 3 years old, learning about how you invest on Wall Street.
That's true.
I think that's probably has to do a lot with the success.
You get exposed to it for sure. I mean, the first lesson, I was very young. I learned that you could be married to someone with an amazing resume, but not necessarily a good match for you.
Yeah.
I remember that. And I remember when I was picking my partner, like, these are the possibilities. Just because they're amazing on paper doesn't mean they're good for you. So these are the things I learned in our household, in our families.
Yeah.
Education was everything. About anything that you're passionate about, just go read about it, find out about it. So that set the bar pretty high. And unfortunately, I see that in the new generation, not a lot of families have time to spend time with their kids. We're all busy. I personally have less time than my parents did. So I really try to make set examples and get my kids involved with real life problems, maybe, and happiness and celebrations and all of that. So it's not all bad, as you said in your talk.
Absolutely.
So even celebrating little wins in life, I always include them. I bring them to our events. I want them to see their mom or their aunt up there speaking, or the activities we do. These are all, again, planting seeds for their future.
And the great thing is, actually, there were a lot of young people at this event too. And by young, I mean, maybe like as young as maybe high school or college, because some of the topics are probably, when we're talking about sexual health, we probably don't want the 5-year-olds there. But there were college students who were like relatives of other speakers or people there that came up to me after and said, well, how can we get involved? Like, what projects do you have? What research projects? And it's just kind of really great to get the younger generation
absolutely
to these things. And also for us, I learned so much, like midlife, I learned so much from all the other speakers. And I think that's one of the things you do so well, Sam. You have a really cool, diverse community. I think I do a lot with medicine and physicians and multi-specialty physicians that have, but then a lot in dermatology, obviously. Like, you come to some of my parties and you're like, you guys just talked about Accutane for an hour. That was weird. But you have a wide, diverse array of women in your network. And
I try.
Women and men.
Absolutely. And, I learned from every single woman around me, and I don't want to emphasize on just educated women. There are so many people who didn't necessarily have a higher education, but they're so knowledgeable. They self-educate themselves. They're constantly reading and learning and sharing it with us, especially with AI these days. Not everybody has a degree in AI, but I learned so much from people. They just picked it up and they're learning. They're taking lessons and they're taking classes and they're training themselves. And I love that, especially being in Silicon Valley. I think we're very blessed with opportunities that are available around us, and we can take advantage of them. There's so many programs at universities, online programs. Again, continuing asking questions, wanting to learn more is my mission. The other thing I want to add, when you said the teenagers were in the room when we were doing the TEDx talk, the younger generation thinks some stuff are impossible. They always watch TEDx shows, the videos on YouTube and everything. But once they saw us actually doing it, we made it possible. Something that was so, we won't do it. We won't be in it. And they were so amazed just being part of it, being in the room of a TEDx event. So making things that are a little bit harder to achieve and making it possible for them is another thing.
But you do the impossible things and make it look really easy and normal. I have to explain what this event was. So Sam comes out and does the intro with the greatest of all time NFL Hall of Famer Jerry Rice. They just walk out casually, and the two of them introduce everyone. And I think everybody in the audience, younger people know who he is. He's evergreen, right? Yeah. Everyone's like, "What is happening right now?"
And greatest of all time, Mr. Jerry Rice.
Hello, everyone. How you guys doing? Everybody's good?
Yeah?
You guys need anything? I can get coffee or anything or whatever.
Well, welcome to TEDx, everyone.
Yes, that's right.
Which is actually, this kind of is a random offshoot, but it also was so cool to see the men supporting this event. Of course, we know the women in there. It's a women's event, but so many men around this were like, how can we help? How can we do this?
I always say really that. Even at that day on my TEDx event, I mean, it was all about women, but it's because of men who empower us and support us and want us to get better. We wouldn't be able to do it without them. It's a community. It's a village. They always say, And I want to teach that to my boys, that you play a huge role in this. You have a sister, you have a mother, and you need to hire more, maybe women at your work, respect them. And so set the tone for even the next generation. And I always thank the men around me. I thank my father all the time for believing in us. And he always saw us equal. He never looked at a woman less or, and he always says, you guys are way smarter than we are too. Like, so he always supported us. And I was fortunate to be surrounded with men like that too. So
that's true. That is really how like the men in our family are. They're very like women first. And it's very much like, we know you guys are going to do it better. So you take your first step and then we'll come in and help. So we've really just grown up with that culture.
Absolutely. So that's one thing that I want to teach my own daughter as well, that there are a lot of good men out there.
Absolutely. So, like these events, sometimes it's easy to become like divisive, but it's not about that. It's really about how do the genders help each other, because there is a balance there. And I think the funniest thing is my husband's very like not into women's health things, but he left. And after the menopause talk, he's like, wow, I learned a lot about menopause. That was really great. And I realized like he would have never really sat there and even thought about these things.
Absolutely.
Learn these things. So
absolutely. I agree. That's one thing, good or bad about politics these days. Everybody's talking about women's health and, the whole uncomfortable topics, but they're also making it comfortable to talk about women's health. Whereas like 50, 60 years ago, nobody talked about miscarriage. Nobody talked about abortion. Nobody talked about all these topics. Good or bad, they're making it easier or comfortable to talk about. And also with social media, I love aspects of social media because it's making it, again, they're having conversations, they're educating people in a good way and a bad way. But at the same time, the topics that were tabooed and we couldn't talk about, they're making it easier. They're out there. You can find information now. Whereas I remember when we were teenagers, there was not a lot out there. You either ask the uncomfortable question from your mom, and they don't always tell you everything either, by the way, because it's such an uncomfortable topic. Yeah. Or your sex ed class. And
those were like so basic.
So basic. So you learned it from your friends, or if you went and checked out an awkward book.
Scary thought. Like 15-year-olds are learning from other 15-year-olds.
So I think information's out there. It's easier to get data about everything now and your body, your health. And so yeah, I love that too.
That's fantastic. Actually, we should go and review the talk. So yes, let's start with the first one. And you let me know kind of your special thoughts about each speaker. But we first started out with, actually I went first. So let's start with me. Or maybe we should talk about me last, because I feel awkward starting with me first.
No, let's start with you because it was an order. Yeah. So rewriting the future. Women can shape AI and language.
Yes. So
why you picked that topic.
So I spoke about AI and language, which is completely opposite of what you would think I would talk about as a dermatologist. And I was initially going to go on and talk about derm topics. And there's so many things that we're passionate about, like inflammatory skin disease, itch, all of that. But, another part of my life that I spent a lot of time on is AI and building our like AI tools. And then I've really gotten, in a weird, hyper-focused way, really focused on language in general, and just realizing more about how important language is in all aspects of our life. So there's the AI language that I talked about, but you realize when you're sitting in like a boardroom, like as a department chair, I got to sit on these like higher up meetings a lot, and I would look around and just see it wasn't about gender, it wasn't about education level, it was the language a person used right then and there in the meeting. Like if you could have somebody come in and change the minds of everybody sitting at that board table.
I agree.
With literally the way they put words together and constructed their thought. So I really learned, because a lot of times you think, well, if I have this and this on my resume, then I can step into a room and do this and this. None of that matters if you can't convey your thoughts with language appropriately. So, and then there is the gender differences of there's language women use that is very intelligent. It conveys our thought, but it hasn't been put in the business books as this is the word you hear when you think of, like I talked about executive presence and things like that. So it's a really interesting topic for me. I won't rehash all of it here. Watch the talk. We'll put links below. But I just thought it was such an interesting thing to do, but it was hard because I'm really used to going up on stage with my safety slides, talking about like inflammatory skin disease mechanism. This was literally trying to put your thoughts together and then memorize it and go tell it to people. I'm really like, I don't have trouble going on stage and talking ever. We talk a lot at the AD and different meetings. I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God. Like,
you did really well. You did really well. I was so impressed. And your transitions were amazing.
Okay.
How you went from one topic to the other topic. So
thank you.
I got really amazing feedback. So
No, it was really like taking myself out of my comfort zone. But I think you have to do these things because I think back to like med school where you're going out of your comfort zone every day. You're on a different rotation. You don't know what you're doing. You're presenting on patients and you don't like, I'm not a cardiovascular surgeon. Why am I presenting on this patient? So you're uncomfortable all the time. And this incredible growth happens. And then you become an attending and you get really comfortable. And so like forcing yourself to be uncomfortable again seems like this really high thing to achieve, but I'm actually glad I did it. I'm going to try to look for more stuff just because you have to keep growing.
And I want to say that I could see it that it's not your comfort zone, but I also saw excitement in you.
Yeah.
When you're too comfortable with something, I don't see that.
Bored.
No, not at all. But I seen you talk about psoriasis every time you get passionately really excited about it. But at the same time, it was new and exciting for you too. It's like, you're guys, listen, I just learned this, So we could see the excitement in you, and that was very rewarding and beautiful to see. Stepping out of your comfort zone, but it's not so out of your comfort zone because you're also an engineer and you're also a physician. It was a combination of you.
You're right.
But you mix all your background, all your education together.
Yeah, went a very different route, which was fun. And then we went to Dr. Kathy Fields, who is the greatest of all time in dermatology. She was
I couldn't believe I'm actually introducing her.
That was so cool. And I think afterwards, some members of the audience were like, "Hi, Dr. Fields, you cured my acne when I was a teenager." And these were like 40, 50 like in their, really successful
generations.
Dr. Kathy Fields. And she was amazing. I mean, she is a person you're like, wow, that's how it's done. That's
definitely
delivering.
Absolutely. She, again, her excitement, her passion, and her experience more than anything. It's so valuable. And
she just, when she speaks, you just listen.
I know the room got quiet.
And she just commands your like presence. Like, we're talking about this now. So I want to learn the
absolutely. And I love how, we all, being teenagers, there's acne's always been part of everybody's life and everybody's family members. So there's cure for it. There are solutions for it, and it's getting easier and easier. I mean, teenagers don't have to go through those awkward years anymore. And that was so, assuring, and especially with having some teenagers in the room and some adults who are fighting acne as well. So I'm still going.
And I just was like really, it was like a really cool thing to see that she has been a champion for acne patients for so long. So when they were, now social media and like direct to consumer is very normal. Back then, when her and Dr. Rodan started this concept of like talking to the people about your condition and democratizing treatments, that was really new and different. So for her to still be on stage promoting, like you could see her passion. Like, this has been her lifelong passion to like help this population.
If she would have followers, she would have had the highest followers all these years.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. If she was on Instagram, she'd be
on TV all the time.
If every mall had or something, she'd be bigger than Kim K, because it's true. Like, the longevity of, and it was really cool for her to, like, because on the TEDx stage, she can talk about anything and she still advocated for like acne patients. So, and I think that applies for everyone, not even just a dermatologist in the room, but I think everybody was just like, yes, like you feel the pain of someone who's suffering with that during that age. So her talk was fantastic. And then she talked also about how social media filters are changing the concept of, and she kind of went through the line of, fixing your skin for confidence, but not going so far as to vanity. So that's a really touchy subject too. I think nowadays there's so many things out there on social media. You almost have to be careful and filter yourself with what you say, because you want to be helpful to one group, but you don't want to alienate a different group. So it's actually a touchy subject. And I think she just nailed it. It was so good.
Absolutely.
It was so great. And who was next?
And then we had Nora Engstrom.
Oh my gosh, Dr. Nora Engstrom is a professor of law at Stanford. She is just so
Promoting access to law for women.
She's fantastic. And actually her talk is on the first page of the Stanford Law
website
homepage.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
That's amazing.
That's really, really amazing. And it's really great to see how her institution was just immediately so supportive of her. We'll actually talk about Melissa Bowdoin in a second too, but she's a principal of the Redwood City district, and the Redwood City School District also put her up immediately.
I love that.
I just think also, like, throwing it out there, anyone who's any organizations should immediately support something like this. Like, I love seeing that with Stanford and like the Redwood City School District. Like, it was like within minutes, like, this is cool. It's going up on our like very first homepage.
I agree.
It was just fantastic. And so Nora talked about, her talk is so great. Actually, just watch it because it's so intelligent. I can't even go over all the topics. Like, I won't do justice talking about it here, but she basically went over how the law and not having access to a lawyer impedes you in life. So that's really going to be like anything you want to do, you need a lawyer, but lawyers are hard to come by. They're expensive. So it's a huge area of need. And it was such a great
Absolutely.
talk.
I agree. I know some people approached her out after.
Yeah.
We didn't know about these things.
Actually, she was probably the most approached because everybody had a question for her. Another interesting thing, really cool thing, she's going to be back on her podcast because another question we talked to her about afterwards was how physicians deal with like being afraid of malpractice and the legal sides of medicine. And she had some really interesting insights that I had no idea about. And I was like, wow, there's a really big gap between what doctors think and what lawyers know. So she's going to come back actually and do a little bit of nitty gritty.
I love that. It's very much needed.
That's very much needed. We need to kind of like bridge that gap because I think there are these like legal fears that keep doctors from doing what's right for patients.
I saw the physicians in the room asking questions, and she said, "This is not actually what's happening in real life." So I remember that.
I think that's
really
that
was amazing. It's very much needed for your field. Melissa Bowdoin.
Oh, she has a next. So I put a plug for her.
Yeah.
With Nora. So Principal Bowdoin is just amazing. She is like the coolest.
Empowering the next generation of female leaders.
Yep. She is a school principal. So her school goes from TK all the way to eighth grade. That's like a crazy
That's a big range. Yes.
Like, because
a lot of personalities.
A lot of personalities, right? So you're dealing with like maybe a screaming, what's TK, 4 or 5 year old? Yeah. All the way to a hormonal teenager.
Yes.
And she's like helping.
She's kind of managing all of them. Yeah.
Managing all the, and then the other thing we kind of were thinking about with younger education is we have so many talks to adult women, but a lot of us those are the years that kind of set you up for life.
Yeah, absolutely. So also dealing with all those parents, by the way, I just realized that.
How does she do it? That can't be easy.
That can't be easy.
And she's always like positive and she's smiling and is like kind of kept the happiness too, because I think she just loves what she does.
Yeah. She's kind of like a elementary principal and also middle school principal. So those are very different. Absolutely.
Different things in the Bay Area where parents can't
It's not all rainbows and Skittles.
I can't imagine Silicon Valley parents being easy. So
I know.
One really cool thing that I loved from what she was talking about, she talked about her journey from when she became a principal from being a science teacher. And she kind of, this was a short part of her talk. It's not even the main talk, but I love this. She talked about how the reasons she was chosen to be principal were all her skill sets as a science teacher and how nice she was and how approachable. But then when she got into the principal role, she thought she had to kind of act a certain way and be more principally. Yeah. And then the teachers were coming back to her and like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? You're not yourself.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what I touched on a little bit in my talk about what we think executive presence should look like, which has a lot of male traits set to it. Mm-hmm. So to me, I don't know if that's what she was feeling herself, but that's what I took away from what she was saying is she got into this position of an executive position and she started kind of acting more executive, quote, like whatever that looks like, which is different than the female executive presence, which is what she innately had, like got her the job in the first place. So I'm going on a tangent here, but I just love that parallel.
Actually, I think we all go through that. I personally go through that. There's some meetings that I walk in, boardrooms that I walk in, and I said, Sam, don't make a joke here. Like I remind myself.
Don't do women's stuff
Don't
here.
say what you're thinking right now.
Male stuff happens. This is the room.
So I think we all go through it. And after a while, it does really change your personality.
It does. And then what you realize is that the female executive presence, which doesn't have a whole lot of definition in the business books or in the curriculum, which we need to, which is kind of part of what I talked about. The female executive presence sometimes, actually most times, is very efficient and gets things done. Like there's been a lot of studies done about women in the C-suite doing things kind of more in the female version of it. And it's very successful because I think what females can do really well is rally the troops to actually get the project done. So implementation is something women can do really well because I think we intuitively understand and sympathize with a group, with a team, rather than just coming in and kind of ordering and having the thing be done. So the female executive presence is really nuanced and very complex, but it's highly effective. So if we keep kind of like writing that out, we're losing a lot. So, and that's such a like interesting thing to me that just trying to teach our daughters, right? To just like what you innately have, keep it because that's powerful and very.
Don't lose it.
Don't
hide it. Don't cover it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I think like I took that away from her, which she was just kind of doing things innately that she wasn't even necessarily thinking about. And everyone else saw it and was like, oh my gosh, you need to be our leader because they were seeing it. But these things don't have like necessarily definitions to them. So yeah, I loved her talk.
Yeah. Then we had Julie Letsinger that you work with. When change is hard.
Yeah.
And oh boy, change is hard.
Yeah. I love Dr. Letsinger. Yeah. So Dr. Letsinger works at PANF with me in Palo Alto, and she used to be at the UCSF Psoriasis Center too. So we talk all the time. We have a very like similar track. But the funny thing is before this TEDx event, I didn't even know all this other stuff in her life and everything else that she specializes and thinks about with life coaching and how to enable change in people, because we just show up at work and we talk about work.
I think we learned a lot of it on our golf outing you had, and that was a different side of her that we saw. And again, at work, she's such a doctor and physician, and then outside was such different part of her.
Actually, like so, my husband Sean too afterwards, because he has seen Julie for so long over the years at all of our holiday parties, and he was like, "I didn't realize Julie's that hilarious." Like, what? Like you've met her so many times.
That's true.
But it's true. Sometimes as physicians, we kind of like try to. I mean, you develop a personality at work, and you just keep that around everyone at work.
Yeah.
So her
talk was amazing. And then we had Leah Millheiser.
Oh my gosh, Dr. Millheiser.
Amazing. I got so many DMs after her talk, prescribing things or getting her information from me. Again, with all the female audience that we had in the room, the things she said we all needed. I learned so much that day myself that I didn't even know. And I read a lot. I thought I am on top of it as far as, women's health and all of that. But there's so much that that unfortunately, I don't know what it is. Our doctors don't have time, or if we don't ask, they don't talk about it.
It's the education too.
It's the education.
She even talked about it because she's an OBGYN, but has extra training on menopause. And she touched on that. A lot of not even just everyone in med school, a lot of OBGYNs don't have specialty training.
I agree. Yeah.
In menopause. And so I've heard this from a lot of patients where they go to their OBGYN, and I know their OBs, they're great. Like they'll be in our group. Some of them even have delivered our babies. Like we know them, we know how great they are with their skill set, and they're fantastic. But when it comes to this specific thing, they're kind of like, okay, well, here's this, and like a very like generic kind of solution, because they just don't have the training that like Dr. Millheiser does. You could
clearly see that's her passion, and she did her extra trainings and everything. But life doesn't end just because you hit menopause. That was the message I got, sexually, physically, your bones, your hair, your skin, everything. Life doesn't end. You can do, there's so many things out there that you can do. And take advantage of, and keep your energy,
just
youth,
keep life going.
Keep life going,
exactly.
and how it affects your memory and with all the, Alzheimer's and everything that is happening, dementia, and
she touched on so many relevant topics.
Yeah.
And I loved her beginning because she talked about evolution. I forget the exact date. Well, watch the talk, so you'll see the exact quote she had. But basically, we're one of the very few species or mammals that undergo menopause. I think she named a few more that undergo the process of menopause, like beluga whales, and like just a couple. And we're the group that live long enough where if we kept having babies, it would be a problem. So evolution basically induced this genetic change of menopause, where a woman at some point just stops having babies and can just take care of the babies she already has, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I have 3 right now, and I'm like, that's it. If I had more, life would not work. So I think that was like an evolutionary advantage for us to just be able to live as long as we can, but it has all these downsides that have come with it. So I just thought she took such a cool look at that. I had never looked at it from that angle.
Yeah, for sure. And that sums up our speakers. Overall, one thing that I got out of this is obviously these ladies are highly, highly educated. They went to the best schools. But TEDx kind of made them nervous, and they really, really wanted to do their best. And I saw it. It was like literally going back to school. Practicing reading, and we did a few practice calls, and so I saw how they really got into it and they wanted to do their best, and I just love that. I'm like, I know you go to court every day, you're amazing. I know you see patients every day, you're amazing. I've seen you guys all do talks.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just it felt so good how passionate they were and how seriously they took this. So
absolutely, I think it pushed all of our boundaries for sure in a really great way. Personally, I love that, and I saw it in all the rest of the women as well. I mean, like you say, like they're top of their game. You would think this is so easy. The one person I would say though, Jerry Rice, man, nothing.
He's so good under pressure.
And he said to me, because I was like, you don't get nervous ever. He said, no, I get nervous every single time I go out as well. And he said, if you're not nervous, there's something wrong. There's something wrong.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I just feel like someone used to study his sympathetic nervous system.
I know.
I think maybe that's the difference between average people and these greatest Hall of Famers.
No, he always says,
situation.
Everybody's watching you from that's how he went through games and life, from an 8-year-old's watching you all the way to an 80-year-old, you got to do your best. You don't want to let them down. So, I think you were in the backstage. You saw few things not going the way they were supposed to be.
Live events.
Events.
You never know with a live event
surprises
what's going to happen.
But I think he saved the day, and he was amazing. And I'm very blessed to have him as my friend. He's always been a huge support in everything we do. Everything I've done, he again all supporting us and being passionate and being a role model more than anything. Sometimes when that day I was so nervous, I was nervous too, just for the program, but also with what was going wrong. And then his peace and calmness kind of calmed me down on the stage as well. So we need more people like that in our life, in our personal life, in our careers. Someone to balance us. Yeah. If we're high, maybe sometimes put us in place. Be humble, bring you up. So I think that balance is needed everywhere. And I think you do that for me, by the way. I want to thank you. You always push me, and you do get me out of my comfort zone as well.
Really? So, I feel like it's another way. I'm always like, Sam, I want to do this. And she goes, okay, these are the 5 things we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it.
That's true. So I think having that teammate in life,
you are my teammate, Sam,
plays a big role.
And we've been at this for a long time. I think me and Sam's first venture together was when I was 3 and you were maybe 5 or 6.
Yep.
We set up a summer camp for our neighborhood.
We charged kids.
Oh my God, what were we charging them? But we did.
And the parents paid us.
But the funny thing is, I think I was only 3 or 4, but I was like the accounting and the
You were the funny person.
And you were the curriculum because I didn't know how to read.
But we entertained these kids. And I remember
because back then summer camps weren't really a thing.
No.
So they would literally come on and hang out in our yard, and Sam would have a whole curriculum.
And our mom would feed them. And
I think our mom was confused. I think she thought we're inviting people to just play with us. And after a while, she's like, we were doing what?
That's true. We're charging the neighbors. But at the same time, it kept us busy. So she was okay with that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've done a lot of adventures together. We've had so many businesses, and not all of them were necessarily successful, but
not all were, but some were too.
Some were amazing. And we learned every step, every, sometimes we started with a subject with something we want to work on, and it completely ended up being something different.
Yeah. We have to go with the process.
So just follow your dreams, I would say. Don't give up, and just keep going.
Keep going and have the right women around you. That
surround yourself with the right people
that enable you to get to the metrics you need to.
Exactly. So, we don't want, what do you call them, Debbie Downers?
No, Debbie Downers. And that's true too, right? I forget who talked about it, but one of the speakers actually did. Like, if there is something that's holding you back, or if there's a kind of energy that's holding you back, there are sometimes change is hard, but sometimes you got to part with that, right?
Part with that. And, growing up, we had so many rules. I think we kind of grew up in also it's very strict family as well. So don't follow all the rules. Sometimes you need to break a few rules here and there and just get out of the box, and push all, even right now we're doing constantly doing everything, all these new things. It's not enough. I always want to do more. It's funny. Our husbands always say, okay, what's next? But at the same time, they hear our ideas. I'm like, okay, let's do it.
And they always go with it. I mean, even on the day, your husband, Ped, he was like, he I don't know how he got recruited into this, but he basically became AV. At some point, I look over to Ped, and he has a whole headset on. He has a walkie-talkie. He's telling people, he's like, go.
Seriously.
And then, Sean's in the back, my husband's in the back, like moving around signs. But that's
so it's just the teamwork, but yeah. So getting the next, that's my goal, getting the next generation involved, talk to them. Again, we've done what we're all doing for so many years. I mean, I have like about 25 years of experience. You have a lot of years of experience. We've gotten comfortable with it. We don't really talk to the next generation. So when I go to parties, when I go to events, I really go find the teenagers in the room, and I'm like, okay, what are you doing? I'm curious. I listen to them and I show interest. Recently we went to an event, and my 8-year-old said, I've never seen so many adults talk to me at a party.
Yep.
So that is taking children more seriously.
Yeah, talk to them. Tell them stories.
Tell them stories and teach them these things and these ideas. And maybe they have a really good idea as well.
And take them to your work. I mean, I took my kids to work a couple of years ago, and they just really love the microscope, like our little Dermatology microscope. So we have microscopes in our house now, and just little things like that. Show them what we do. We take them to our conferences. At the SF Derm conferences, we have Kids Club, which is one of our best parts, but it's not so much just babysitting. It's getting the kids involved in that community. So this cohort of kids were like the kids of all the doctors.
That's true. They see each other every year now.
Every year. Sometimes they come into the lecture hall and see the lectures, and they're like, "Oh, this is what mommy and daddy do when they're not home." So
exactly,
it's fantastic. And so, are you doing it again? Are you doing TEDx again?
I think we should. We got such an amazing feedback, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't easy. Just the logistics, the venue,
it's
just
putting on a live
bios. Everybody's super busy.
Yeah.
But I was so impressed with the quality of our speakers, the audience who supported us. So I think it's a no-brainer. I think we should continue, but I do want to involve other parts of, other things. We should involve men too as well, by the way.
That's true.
We should have male speakers as well.
Absolutely.
So I know our name is Sandhill Road Women,
but you need both genders to be supportive. So I'm super excited for your next event. And I should say also, anyone listening who's in our community, reach out to us too if you have someone that you think would be a great speaker, because sometimes there are people who just have these amazing things they're doing and amazing ideas, but they're just not getting the platform to share them. So, I think a couple of our speakers were suggestions from colleagues, and they're being amazing.
That's
speakers.
True. Actually, one of our speakers ended up being at a dinner we had, remember?
Yes.
So just talking to your network, sharing your ideas, it's old school thought that don't share. They're going to steal my idea. They're going to do it better.
Yeah.
No, I've been sharing everything. If you believe in yourself and you know you're going to work hard,
get your thoughts
out there.
No one's going to steal your idea.
Yeah.
Implementation of projects is not hard. That's something I learned really early on too.
Yeah.
Get your ideas out there and get like-minded people to gravitate towards you and help you get the project done, help you get the idea out there. So
for sure. But this time I would get more volunteers.
Yes. We're going to need about 20 or 30 more volunteers this time and a lot more coffee.
A lot more coffee.
The food was so good. Coffee, we had Mademoiselle Colette. Sam doesn't forego any details. But so great, Sam. Thank you for being on I have to get you on our podcast more.
I know. I listen to you guys on my walks every day and I'm learning so much. I mean, I've been coming to your conferences for, I don't know, 14 years.
You are an expert in inflammatory.
So I am, but at the same time, every time I learn something new, you just had a speaker. Actually, it comes top of my mind is the gangs and the tattoos and the skin and all that. I was like, oh my gosh, I never thought about skin in that way.
Yes, yeah.
So
absolutely, human trafficking
and all that.
That episode was amazing.
So there are things I learn from you guys all the time. The financial side of the business, how to run the business. So all of that. It's so educational and it applies to all of us. It's not just you don't have to be a dermatologist or passionate about skin, but sometimes you guys get very technical.
Sometimes we do have a tendency to go there as well, but this is so fun. We'll link all the talks below. There are a couple other actually talks like Dr. Kathy Fields did a recap with us about her experience. I think Dr. Leah Millheiser did one as well. So look out for the other women talking about their TEDx. The links are below. We have a DermPub journal episode coming out for the holidays just about the TEDx events because people have some downtime during the holidays. So take the time to read and watch the videos and
share your thoughts. Yeah, we would love to hear from you. We only get better when we hear from you. So, but yeah,
thanks again, Sarah.
Of course.
Thank you for listening to the Future of Dermatology podcast. Remember to hit that subscribe button and share the podcast with your friends. The more you share and subscribe, the more we'll be able to grow and share our dermatology knowledge. If you have burning dermatology questions, feel free to leave them in the comment below and we would love to address them in a future episode. And please note that this podcast is not intended to substitute for medical advice from your doctor.